Well, hey guys, welcome back. What we're going to be doing today, got my iced tea, right? Very, very warm up here. Very warm in the Seattle area. Warmer than we're used to, so believe me. What we're going to do today is we're going to be charging some cases. This is the 75 by 55 Schmidt Rubin. And as you can see, I have annealed the cases. I've already primed them. They're already sized, ready to go. I didn't think you guys really needed to see all that. Anyway, I went ahead and deburred and also measured all the cases, make sure that they were within spec. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be using IMR 4320. Okay, 4320 is a slower powder than, say, 4064. 4064 is in the burn rate for some automatic rifles like the M1 Grand and some people, well, actually the major consensus on this is that 4064 is about as low, slow as you want to go with the M1 or the M1, M1A rifles. That's been my experience. 4895, that's one of the best to use for those. So, but we're not focusing on the 308 Winchester, which I also want to go ahead and show a little comparison here between the two. The 75 by 55 has much more case capacity. However, you have to understand, the K31 rifle was developed in 1931. That doesn't mean you can go ahead and supercharge these rounds, and fire them with ridiculous, super planet destroyer loads. That's not the case here. Speaking of which, if you have a 1911 Schmidt Rubin rifle, these loads don't fire a minute. That action is much too weak, and these loads are only for the K31. Only for the K31. So anyway, well, what we got here is we're going to be loading 46 grains of 4320. So we're going to go ahead and put some of this in our powder measure here. Yeah, that should be about enough. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a target, alright, of 46 grains. So we'll go 46, 0, and we will go ahead and push dispense. Now it's probably going to go over because I just dumped that in. You have to kind of get the blood flowing with these powder measures. Yeah, we're already over. Yeah, okay. Back in there, and away we go. .4320 is really a shortcut powder. It's very, it's cylindrical, but it's very shortcut. We're already over. Okay. Push there. Like I said, you got to run these things a couple of times before it actually evens out. We're already over. So let's just do this. We'll go on to speed. Mode. Right there. Speed. Then we'll go on slow speed. And we'll see what she does now. sometimes you got to play around with these. I hope I'm not boring you guys to death. It's just that I've discovered that, you know, you can mimic the 1911 round with this makeup. Okay, 46.0. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start charging, guys. Just like so. You know, what we're going to be loading in this particular cartridge is 30 caliber 308 175 grain hollow point boat tail match bullets. Now, there you go. I have a subscriber, and also I subscribe to his channel. He's really into the K31 and the 1911, and the guy really does. I mean, if there's anything that you really want to know about the K31, you really should look him up. And it's let's see if I can remember it off the top of my head. ICACA, ICAC, something like that. And the guy is out of Oregon, and he just dearly loves the K31. And he has some very interesting points about the K31 that, you know, if you ever wondered why that rifle shoots as well as it does, is because of the way they engineered that rifle. That rifle is engineered as a target gun, and it was adopted by military service. But those Swiss people are really smart. I mean, they really did their homework, you know, on these guns. A little bit more, and bingo. I'll tell you what, guys, I really like this Hornady automatic powder dispenser. I mean, it really takes the work, you know, out of, you know, charging your cases and having to dial them in and stuff and dribble them in. I really, honestly, I don't think you're going to get any better results by doing them by hand or doing this for all practical purposes. Yeah, we might be over. Nope. Anyway, the K31 typically, people classify that typically as a 30 caliber rifle, and it is rather in the 30 caliber range, but actually it's not 30 caliber, as in 308. You know, when we think 30 caliber in the United States, we think 308, 309, around there. That's going to be, you know, 30 caliber. In the Swiss, it's 30 caliber, but it's 7.5, and the actual bullet that is used in the K31 ammunition, okay, is, okay, that's what I thought, is a Spitzer style bullet, and it's Cooper nickel. And you know, it has a shank. You know, it's somewhat similar to this, but it has a shank. But the thing is, though, with the 1911 round itself, it's 174 grains. When it comes back on the ogive is actually like 302, you know, 302, 304 around there, and then the shank and the actual bearing surface on the very back of the round is 306 diameter, thus 7.5. And you know, the barrel does squeeze these down a little bit more because they're 308. You know, you should really, you know, slug your barrel before you start doing this to actually, you know, see what your actual dimension is inside your barrel. I did mine, and it's right around I don't know, 307, 306, around there. But you know, for all practical purposes, this isn't going to bother it to go ahead and shoot these. You know, it'll squeeze these down. These are lead bullets. They'll squeeze down. It's no big deal. I've done some upgrades to the K31. As you guys can see, I put target sights on it, and with those target sights, Here's another little helpful hint. 4320, you got your cheapo, Dymo Office Mate 2, right? You can get one of these down at Walmart or Office Max, wherever, and you make these little labels. And what you do is you just take your little label here, and you stick it on your powder measure. That way, if you leave the powder in there, you're not going to come back and you're going to forget, what's in there and end up throwing all that out. I hate wasting powder. I've actually showed up at my powder measure and I didn't identify it, and I was like, I can take it out and look at it, I can compare it to others, and guys, I'm going to tell you what, if you don't know what it is, don't assume. That's the main thing. Don't assume, because what you're doing is you're messing with rocket propellant, and it all burns different speeds, And besides that, say like for instance, you did reuse that powder. You reused that powder and say like the 308 or whatever, and you had some outstanding accuracy and everything was great and everything. You just can't remember what the powder was. So, you're not really accomplishing anything. So it pays to identify your loads. Believe me. Keeps waste down, and also you're keeping track of things. Okay. Occasionally I'll do that. I'll take the case, like I just moved that one up so I know this one's empty. Alright. Got a little handy dandy Redding powder funnel. That thing's been with me forever. It's great. I love it. It's just the right size. Bingo. Come on now. There we go. Alright. So I'm kind of excited about this. I want to get the K31 out there and run it through the paces with this particular load, this 4320. But the upgrades that I did with the match sight is that I'll have to show you guys on the review. But I'm upgrading the diopter on it. The diopter that came with it from Swiss Products only came with one insert. That one insert only had one particular sight picture, and with light and all this other stuff going up and down, and different range conditions and lighting conditions, that can kind of screw you up if you're while you're shooting, and cause the bullet to kind of lose your point of impact. So at any rate, I got an adjustable one. I just went out and spent the money. I bought an Anschutz insert for it. That's adjustable, and you can make it bigger or smaller or whatever you want to do. I also went and bought some inserts for the old sight that I got from Swiss Products, and those sight inserts are Anschutz, and they'll fit in the Swiss Products globe. Just in case you guys want to know, if you ever want to upgrade your sights to your K31, there you go. I'm going to tell you this much right now, straight across the board. You got a K31 and you want to get the most out of it, put the target sights on it. Just spend the money. Just spend the money. Put the target sights on it. I mean, you would be amazed what that does for accuracy. I mean, guys will say, well, they'll go out there in their fire group and, at 100 yards, and they'll have their stock sights, and, and then they'll get so accuracy, and then they'll say, well, I got to work on the load, and I got to do this. And meanwhile, all you're doing is you're flushing bullets down the drain, man, You'd be surprised how well that rifle will shoot just upgrading the sights. Once you upgrade those sights, then your sight picture is better, and your marksmanship skills will come into play, so you can fine-tune that and squeeze and shoot, when you see your sight picture. And that's the whole thing. And then you get the most out of what you're doing here, man. So, it just makes sense. It just makes sense. By the way, I want to give a little shout out. Johnny's Reloading Bench. Johnny has decided to go full tilt with YouTube and his videos. And if you haven't ever tuned in on his channel, Johnny is very analytic. He's very, very particular. He's, he twists and he turns and he tweaks, and he's very, procedural about what he does, and he's very, very knowledgeable. He's got some great stuff coming up. He just got some Corbon, 22 caliber bullet swaging dies, and he's going to get into that. I'll tell you what. 20 years ago, I had some 30 caliber Corbon that I went in halvesies, went and got with this guy, and we made some 30 caliber, we went about 180 grain bullets, and those things shot amazing. I mean, if you start bonding your own bullets and cores and jackets and stuff, once you start getting into that, you really do become a connoisseur of bullets. Their shape, their contour. All of that, Okay, now I'm going to check this one here. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Matter of fact, what I'm going to do is put that one there, put this one here, and put that like that. And once you become a connoisseur of the bullet construction and that sort of thing, then you really start understanding the ogive, your throat dimension, and all that other stuff, and it turns into madness. Reloading madness. You spend hours and hours and hours with calipers and 1-inch mics and stuff, and you're just getting, to tell you the truth, you're getting the most out of reloading when you start doing that. And it's like casting bullets. I mean, guys that don't cast, for instance, okay. They go out and buy bullets. I mean, which there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to put them down or anything like that. But once you start casting bullets and you start understanding, that, for pistol ammunition and some of the accuracy that you can get from pistol ammunition you just make right here at home, you start seeing all the money that you spend on a lot of the bullets that you've bought, and even cast bullets that you buy. You start seeing the shortcomings in the cast bullets that you buy, that you can actually make a better bullet than you can buy out there that's commercially available. It's something that has really opened up the window of reloading to me, and I'm going to tell you what, it's something to get excited about once you start casting. It's a great way. Not just to save money, but it's a great learning curve, because then you start understanding that ballistic coefficients, things like that, really have little to do with shooting at a distance of, say, 25 yards to 50 yards. The ballistic coefficient is not going to have a big deal at that range. You're not going to see a huge difference in accuracy. That 50 foot per second, range, 25, 30, 10, whatever foot per second is not going to have that big of a deal out of a pistol at that range. You're still, I've seen guys hand load, on a Lee Progressive 1000, go out there and shoot a group that big around at 50 yards. At 50 yards, you go down range and that's it. Every single bullet went through a hole that big around. Unbelievable. And they didn't weigh their charges. They didn't sit there and tweak anything. They know how to shoot. They know how to hold. They know how to get the most out of their shooting abilities. That's it. Now, where ballistic coefficient will make a difference is when you start shooting past 300 yards with a rifle. That's where ballistic coefficient has its biggest impact. Because now what you're doing is you're going past the point where the bullet is actually losing its speed at a dramatic way. And the gyroscopic, effect as it goes through the atmosphere. All those things are starting to have an effect on that bullet. And that's where, when you have a wide span of ballistic coefficient of your velocities, That's where you're starting to get, you know, a hole up here, a hole down here, a hole over here, and a hole over here. That's what's happening, is that you start dancing around that. That's why ballistic coefficient is so important when you're shooting at, you know, at ranges like at 600 yards or beyond, you know. But out to 300 yards, 400 yards really doesn't make that big difference. Nah, you don't need to sit there and, you know, tweak all that. When I was shooting high power, the 300 yard line, those were dropped loads. I mean, I would just go ahead and drop the loads. I wouldn't even, you know, I would set up my powder measure so it was throwing a certain charge, make sure that it was on, make sure everything was locked together, but then I just threw those charges. That's it. That's all you needed to do. At 300 yards, you're not going to see a big difference in 150 grain bullets shooting at 300 yards. You know, in ballistic coefficient. One thing that I wish was still available out there is that back in the day we used to, now some guys still remember these, if you went and shot high power back in the day, match bullets are expensive, okay? They're a cost that you pay for, you know, to, you know, shoot match in rifle in 30 caliber. What used to be available though at the time is that you can get pulled bullets from match ammo or special long range ammo, military. You get these pulled bullets and they were 163 grain spire point shanked match bullets, and they were 163 grains. No, 173 grains. Excuse me, 173 grains. And we used to shoot those all the time. I mean, you could get a whole bag of them, a whole bag, you know, 1,000 rounds for like $40. It was cheap. Made shooting affordable for us. But those days are gone, man. All those bullets got shot, and nobody has anymore. So, you know. Now we have great strides with the little darling, you know, the 223, you know, and guys have done, you know, tremendous work on, you know, making the AR-15 what it is today. It is the new match rifle. You know, if you're not shooting an AR-15 and you're shooting national match, you're not going to come in first place. An AR is going to do that, and the reason why an AR will do that is because it's just so much easier to shoot. You know, it really is. I mean, the recoil, all of that, you know, has something to do with that. Thing is, though, with an AR-15, it's just like shooting a 22 caliber pistol all the time. Sooner or later, you know, you're going to start to get sloppy. So, I always did this. I shot my AR-15 in high power, but what I always did is I balanced it, and I would shoot my tournaments with my my M1A or my M1 Grand. I would go out there and shoot tournaments with it in 30 caliber. But when I shot, you know, for like state championship or the NRA regionals or anything like that, I always shoot my AR-15, and you know, that way I could be competitive with the guys that always won. Just a little food for thought there. You know, you're dealing with a lot more recoil with a 308 cartridge, but then again, when you switch over to the AR-15, man, it's a piece of cake. I mean, you're gonna smoke them. That's just the way it is. You're gonna smoke them like a cheap cigar, man. So, I think that's all 20 cases. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look under that here. Make sure that we're all good in the hood, man. Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of what I've been up to. I upgraded the K31 sights. Gonna load some ammo. This is 46 grains of 4320. And we're gonna go out and we're gonna fire these with those new sights on there and see how these work. Thing is though, the range is closed right now. And it's gonna be continue to be closed until the construction is over. Our range is the only range in this county right now. And so the management of our range, board members, that sort of thing, want to keep that range toot sweet because they want a good facility, a facility for shooting, and they want a safe place to shoot. And we don't want to have any opposition at all from the left or people trying to shut us down or anything like that. We want to comply with all the regulations, and there is tight rules. There's really super tight rules that we have at our range because we don't want to let any bullets get out of the area. I mean, we don't want to have to explain things to the authorities of how this happened. And the way you do that is, I hate to say this, is that you have to come up with rules, okay? And unfortunately those rules can cut into a little bit of what I would consider, common sense things. I mean, common sense dictates that when you take a 12 gauge shotgun, you go out there and you shoot from the hip, but you're only at 7 yards and you're shooting into the berm, okay? Common sense would say that none of those projectiles are going to get outside the area. However, it has to be idiot proof. If maybe they know that you can do it. Thing is, though, is they don't know if Joe Schmuckatelli, he just got out of his car. He says, "Hey, man, I want to do that." So he goes up there, and he ends up blowing his foot off, or he ends up, jacking around up in the sky somewhere, a 12 gauge slug, and it's it's going to lob in someplace. So, and they're always scared of stuff like that, which they should be. We should be. We really should. I mean, we really should be. Yeah. So, tell you what, guys, until the next video, we will be chiming in later, okay? But this is Thorzax, and I'm out.